Hello, I'm Leisa Holland-Nelson, co-host of Culture Club HTX, and I'm here today with
Shavonnah Schreiber, the other half of Culture Club HTX.
And our incredible guest, but you got to wait to listen to her, Pattie, who's just released her first book, Ordinary to Extraordinary, at the request of Forbes Publishing.
I thought you were going to say at the request of you, and I was going to say...
No, it is not at my request. Come on already. But anyway...
But I would have done it if you'd requested.
Thank you.
Oh, she's so
Thank
sweet.
you. She's so nice. She's really amazing. And I want to get to her, but first, there's a couple things business-wise we really have to talk about.
Which ones?
Well, I think really, really important is this June 2024 Economy at the Glance report from the Greater Houston Partnership. Our city is just continuing to grow and continuing to be a place everybody wants to come to. And there are more reports even today that I think I even shared on LinkedIn. Houston is just either the number one or in the top 10 of everything: arts, culture, business opportunities. I mean, life is good here.
It really is. And one of the things that this particular story made me think about, I was a part of a campaign that the MMI agency, shout out to Cindy Marion, did, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago, highlighting the city of Houston and forecasting that we would do exactly what we're doing now. And I just think it's tremendous. I also think that the fact that this report came out in June is probably because of my birthday. So I just want to keep it.
Oh my God. This is the last day of her birthday month, everybody. It's June 30th and we are done. We're done.
we might be done. But the other thing about this particular
story. She has
story
her pearls on.
I do. The population of Houston now exceeds 2.3 million. So we're still the nation's fourth largest city. I know we keep gunning for third, but I think we probably are really third, but that's okay. But yeah, I mean, I think this is a great story. And, you know, we talked last week about, or maybe a few weeks ago, about the impact of our city and its growth on employment and the business sectors here. And I think this report, especially coming from GHP, kind of continues to highlight that if you have a place to pick that you want to move that is doing all the things, Houston is that place.
Well, and our housing is more affordable than most places. It may not be as affordable as it was 10 years ago, but it's more affordable than a lot of other places.
Well, a lot of other cities that have similar makeups as Houston. So, but we got to keep going because we got to get to Pattie Dale.
Okay, that's right.
So what's the other story that's pretty... Oh, well, it's Rice, right?
Yes, and there's so much incredible stuff going on at Rice University. I feel like every week we have to talk about some other big thing, but they just got $1 million donation to advance brain research. I'm so excited about that. I mean, I feel like every day, I don't know if it's aging population or what, but another person I know has some sort of brain injury or brain something. So any kind of research towards brain recovery or sustainment or whatever. So this is for the establishing the interdisciplinary neuro policy program.
Well, one of the things that he says, which this kind of goes back to what we're talking about with the economy, is that the program lead says that improving brain health improves economic growth, national security, because in general, he talks about, you know, brains being sort of like this trust and the capital that is inside of your head. So I think, one, it's great because we hear all this conversation about artificial intelligence, which we understand is a tool. However, I still believe in the human and the human brain.
Always.
Generally speaking. Always will be there.
Well, it's not going to happen. None of that stuff works without the human brain, unfortunately.
Right.
It doesn't get invented without the human brain.
Correct.
So it still sort of has to be, like, managed by the human brain. Okay, here we go.
I'm just waiting. I'm like, what is she going to say? Okay. To Pattie Dale.
Yay.
We're so happy to have you.
I'm thrilled to be here. I love Houston, Texas, and to be with you all is just magical.
Well, and the other magical thing, other than Michael, shout out to Magical Michael, our producer, Michael. We love you, is that you were Lisa's first guest on her other show, Women Mean Business.
Isn't that wonderful? And this is my first podcast after I'm a Forbes author. So it's amazing.
It's just all meant to be.
In June.
I mean, it's really crazy.
Yes,
it is. It's really crazy. Yes. What goes around and comes around. Yeah, I mean, we could talk about us for a long time, but we're not. We're going to talk about your book. And first of all, in introducing you, Pattie Dale was like built Humana in Houston. I mean, you really took this business to the moon and back. I mean, it was a nothing organization. You got the job, and I'm going to let you talk about the career piece of it. And you really built this business. And at the same time, you built yourself as a presence that really supported our community. The company supported the community, but so did you. And that doesn't always happen. A lot of times executives, it's all the company. Mm-hmm. And I think it's just incredible that Forbes, which we all love Forbes, I mean, would come and say, write a book about your experiences. And I want you just to talk about them because I heard you earlier, and it's just the way you talk about this is so incredible. So we have all of these questions, but we want you to kind of tell us about your leadership roles and how you got there and what you thought you'd get there. How, what did you think would bring you to this?
Well, I'll tell you, I was fortunate to get to Houston, Texas in 1999, working for Tony Chase as he started another fabulous business called ChaseCom. Yes. And I learned from the master giver of intelligence, Tony Chase. I mean, he is wise. He lifts while he climbs. I learned all of that from him. And Lisa's right. I said to Humana, we cannot be successful in this community, this very generous community, if we don't give first. Mm-hmm. And I learned that there was energy in certain areas. For my business, which was health, the energy was in heart. Mm. And so we leaned into that in a big way. Yes. We supported Go Red for Women.
You really started Go Red the way it is today as an executive women's initiative.
And it was fabulous. Yes. And Leisa was on my executive board. What it allowed me to do was to position Humana as a solution as opposed to a problem. And very often insurance companies are thought of as a problem. So it did change. Giving back. I say in my book, generosity is a superpower in the workplace.
It is.
People don't think about it, but to give back is going to return over and over again. And that happened in this city, and I was very thankful. Unfortunately, all that good growth, they pulled me up to Louisville, their headquarters, which is where I live now. Yeah. But I'm coming back. Yay! It's too fabulous a place not to come back to. Back? I do. Well, your medical community. Yes. What a place to grow old in, right?
That's really true. Yes. But I keep getting into trouble for things our medical community isn't doing. Yeah. So I have to be careful.
Well, one thing I want to say about the fabulous Rice story that you mentioned is I will, from time to time, come back to Houston specifically for some medical things. And I went to Baylor College of Medicine for a genetics profile. Mm-hmm. And I do have the APOE4 gene, which is the precursor to, if you have two, you have a much bigger risk of having Alzheimer's. I just have one, so I've got a slight move up. But the last thing that the geneticist said to me as I walked out, work as long as you can.
Yes.
And that is a beautiful thing. In third chapter, which I'm in my career, that gave me so much lift, and that was part of what got me into this book. I'm going to go as long as I can, as long as I have something to give.
That's right. And you have lots to give. So let's talk about the book, which is entitled Ordinary to Extraordinary. One of the things you talked about is the 98%. So tell us a little bit about what that means and how you were proud, you say, of being a part of the 98%.
I am.
What is the 98%? That kind of give people context.
That is most of us. So that is most of us, and I consider that to be just the very ordinary, normal people. Mm-hmm. And that was me. That is me. It still is me. But today, I think people feel so much pressure to be in the 2%. And a lot of that is pressure they don't need to feel, because a lot of what they see is just airbrushed on social media. And it's having people tap out of going for what they can go for because they think they'll never get there. That's and that troubles me deeply, because we're wasting energy. We're going to lose out on innovation. We have to get these people feeling confident, which is also an underrated attribute. Everybody can give somebody confidence, right?
Oh,
so
great.
The 98% is all of us, and we can get there too. We deserve to get there too. Enough.
So when you wrote the book, like Leisa said, Forbes comes to you and they say, Pattie, you're amazing. You've had this amazing career. We would like you to write about it. What did you hope readers would take away from it? I mean, other than what you just said, which is great, but when you really sat down and put pen to paper, you said, I'm going to write a book that readers will read, and then do what?
Step into the game. Step into the game. Because again, I feel they're self-selecting out, and they are enough. They have to learn their aptitudes, their skills. They have to be passionate about what they decide to throw themselves into. They need a purpose. I believe we all get wonderful exhaust from a purpose, or fuel from a purpose. But it is really to give them confidence. Step in this 90,000 hour march. That is how long the typical career is, right? And 30, 40, 50 years. Enjoy it. It is an amazing gift in life to be able to have a wonderful career. Don't be on the sidelines. Don't treat it as a side hustle.
Well, I like what you said about sidelines. And since we are here at ESPN Studio, another thing you say in the book that's interesting is that you equate athleticism, being like a good corporate athlete.
Yes.
I was like, talk to us about what that means and what you hope people take from that.
I love that. Somebody in AT&T headquarters gave me that advice when I first came up for my first little interview. I'm sure I had a
power suit on,
power suit and a little briefcase and some heels and probably some pantyhose back then. But
Yes.
But anyway, it was what she said to me was, I'm going to give you some advice. Be an athlete. Don't get typecast in one role. Play basketball, play football, play golf, play tennis. You want to be multifaceted in your athleticism.
Corporate athleticism,
which was fantastic. And so I did that. And I have given that advice so many times to people. And it bears out. You don't want to get typecast. Look at all the things you've done, Leisa. And look at all the things you've done. And nobody said she can only do this. Because they saw early that you were multifaceted. And that's what you've got to be.
Well, I am also an All-American college basketball player. I'm going to throw that in there. I'm actually not, but that's okay.
She's actually not. And for those of you who are listening for the first time, I thought she was an All-American basketball player at the University of Arizona. I introduced her down on our first 3 shows, and she finally hears me. She says, I didn't play basketball
at all.
That is too funny.
I mean, it was hilarious. But so anyway, so then she decides she's going to be a Hall of Famer.
I am.
She's too young to be a Hall of Famer. Stop it. You are not.
Don't take me out of the game. She just said, I'm in the game.
I'm not taking you out of the game. You're an All-American.
Okay, that's fine. Anyway, continue, Pattie. I'm sorry. We get on tangents. Leisa gets on tangents.
Well, and the other thing about the corporate athlete is it's interesting to compare it to a pro sports person because you all know this. When you're in business, you go hard and you go hard for about 12 hours a day. An athlete doesn't do that. They take a break. They step back and breathe. They step back and get nourished. And I bet your second guest is going to talk all about this, but we work hard, right?
Yes.
And so taking a lesson from a professional athlete, you should step back.
This is brilliant.
You really should step back.
I'm going to say, excuse me, I'm going to take a nap. Yeah. I'm a professional athlete here, people. Corporate athlete.
I mean, but I think that's so important.
That
pacing yourself. You figure it out when you're at the twilight.
Yes.
You kind of figure out what really works. I can't remember how you described it, but I call it white space. Having some kind of ability to take advantage of opportunities.
Yes.
And time to clear your head.
Yes.
You can't book every single minute. I mean, that's sort of, but
true.
I did not figure that out until.
You did not. Have you?
Well,
have you?
I have.
Oh,
I have.
You haven't when I
try to call her at before 10:30 because she goes to spin at 9:30. Try to call her before 10:30. She's like, out.
I'm not out.
She's just not answering the phone.
I'm not answering the phone.
That's wise.
And I saw you said something about, or she said something about not looking at emails in the morning.
Yes.
Tell me about that.
Yes, talk about that.
So there's a great book, Never Check Email in the Morning. And that may sound like, oh my gosh, how could I live that way? But the point of it is, you be proactive in how you start your day. Do not be reactive. You will be on your back heels the entire day. It's a hard habit to get into, but once you do, then you plan your day and you work your plan. And emails are going to be there when you get to the point where you can look at them, but they don't determine your day. You do.
I love that. Own the day.
Yeah. I think I've accidentally started doing it because I was forgetting to look at the phone. Steve, my business partner, will say, did you see that email? And I'm going,
No, see, I know to text you, be like, hi, hello, lovely, check your email, because I know, right?
Yeah.
She'll see the text, not the email yet. But no, that is great advice, because it's all about owning your day and not letting your day own you. And in the book, right, I mean, I do think that's how you go from ordinary to extraordinary. It's these practices that are simple, right?
Yes.
I mean, they're actually simple. As my father would say, simple but not easy.
Yeah.
It's simple, it's just not easy. And so you have to build that discipline to do it. And the very last thing, and that magical, I already know. The very last question is you talk in the book about appearance and how important it is to be ready, to not have these casual days where you say, oh, I don't have a meeting. Well, what if you do? What if you have a pop-up meeting? And I thought about you, Leisa, when I was like, oh, of course. But this notion of always be ready, like a professional athlete, they don't need to go get in shape for the game. They're like always in shape.
That's it.
All year long. So talk a little bit about that notion of appearance in this casual world that we live in, and how important you think it is to building an extraordinary career.
So my father gave me this advice: the breaks will come, be ready for them. And that was just emblazoned in my being. And so I assumed every day when I left the house, and back then went to the office, the break may come that day. So I wanted to stand out in the crowd in case it came. And I was always, I always felt like I needed to be professionally dressed. I always felt like I needed to be professionally behaving. My sister gave me this advice: when you go out on a corporate outing, if there is alcohol, be the first one to leave. I mean, how many of us know somebody that wasn't the first one to leave, and that can wreck your career? But I just think, be ready. Somebody is always watching. They are always watching. And be ready for it.
Love it.
I agree.
Well, Pattie Dale, tell us where people can find your book.
80% of all books are sold on Amazon, but do use your local bookstores like Blue Willow, who was at my luncheon today. They are fabulous. So Barnes & Noble, it's everywhere. And
then your website.
PattieDaleTie.com. Go figure.
Yeah, I love it. And we'll continue to talk about it on all of our channels as well. You have been a real delight. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you. This has been just a wonderful experience for me, and I admire you both deeply.
Oh, you're so sweet. Thank you so much. And with that, we'll go to a break. We'll be back.
Bye.
Bye.